How to never get angry or bothered by anyone. He who angers you conquers you. Elizabeth Kenny. Have you ever wondered how much energy we waste reacting to people who don't deserve our attention? In today's video on spiritual wisdom, we're diving deep into Carl Jung's powerful insights on how to reclaim your peace and master your emotions no matter who tries to disturb your calm. These aren't just lofty ideas. They're practical tools that can help you stay centered, unshaken, and free. What if you could move through life untouched by drama, grounded in your inner strength? Let us know in the comments. What's one trigger you're ready to let go of today? Hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs a little more peace in their life. 1. Anger is a message, not a problem. Anger is not a flaw. It is not a failure. It is a message raw, loud, and honest. It comes from the rejected corners of your being, from the shadow you've been taught to hide. The very thing you were told makes you unlovable. Your needs, your boundaries, your voice is now rising up to be heard. Anger is not trying to ruin your peace. It's trying to teach you where it was never safe to feel. When you get triggered, when your heart pounds and your jaw tightens, it's not about the person or the comment. It's about what was never healed, what was never seen. Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." This is not about blame. This is about revelation. Your anger reveals what still aches inside you. Every spike of emotion is an invitation. It says, "Look here. Look at what still needs compassion. Look at the little version of you that didn't get to speak. Look at the boundary you keep letting others cross." When you treat anger as a sacred signal instead of a shameful flaw, you start healing from within. You stop reacting blindly and start responding with intention. That's the difference between suppression and transformation. That's the heart of spiritual wisdom. True spiritual awakening isn't about becoming endlessly calm. It's about becoming endlessly aware. It's the ability to pause before you project, to listen before you lash out, to hold your pain without letting it spill onto others. Anger doesn't destroy relationships. Unconscious anger does. When you carry years of silence, when you bury your truth, it eventually explodes. But when you acknowledge your fire with tenderness, it burns clean. It becomes clarity. It becomes the truth. It becomes the force that builds boundaries, not barriers. Most people don't want to sit with their anger. They want to escape it, suppress it, pray it away. But the escape becomes another cage. You cannot bypass what your soul has assigned as your next lesson. And in this season, anger may be that lesson. Emotional maturity is not about never being triggered. It's about recognizing the trigger, owning your reaction, and asking, what is this trying to teach me? What unmet need is crying out through this emotion? When you start seeing anger as a compass, not a curse, everything shifts. You become less reactive and more reflective. You stop giving your power to external chaos and start reclaiming it through inner clarity. In that space, you're not controlled by anyone. No one's words, looks, or silence can hijack your peace. You have your emotional sovereignty back. There is nothing more powerful than a person who is no longer afraid of their own fire. A person who doesn't run from their rage, but understands it. Who doesn't justify it, but listens. Who doesn't weaponize it, but transforms it. That is the mark of someone who is awakening. That is the path of spiritual depth. Not avoidance, not perfection, but presence. The courage to feel without being consumed. The wisdom to pause, reflect, and alchemize pain into self-respect. Anger is a doorway, and if you're willing to walk through it, not slam it shut, you'll find a part of yourself you've been waiting your whole life to meet. Have you ever listened to what your anger was really trying to say? If so, share your insights in the comments. Your story might help someone else heal. If not, comment, "I'm ready to listen," so we can begin this journey of self-awareness together. 2. You're not triggered by them. You're triggered by what's unhealed in you. When someone offends you, it's easy to believe that they are the problem. Their words, their attitude, their energy. But the truth, as Carl Jung taught, is far more revealing. You're not triggered by them. You're triggered by what's unhealed in you. What stirs your anger or discomfort is rarely about the person in front of you. It's about the unresolved pain, the buried beliefs, the emotional wounds you haven't yet faced. Their comment or behavior is just a match. The fire was already inside. This is spiritual wisdom in its rawest form. Because once you understand that your reactions are reflections of your inner state, everything changes. You stop trying to change the world to feel safe, and you start turning inward. That tightening in your chest, the spiral of thoughts, the heat behind your eyes. It's not just about what happened in the moment. It's about the version of you that never got to speak. The moment you were dismissed as a child, the time you were hurt and told to get over it. When you're emotionally hijacked, you're not really in the present. You're reliving the past, and it's begging to be seen. Most people want control. They want to feel calm, composed, unshaken by the world. So they chase strategies, deep breaths, boundaries, mantras, fake calm. But underneath all of it, the storm still swirls. Because control without awareness is just a temporary escape. Real freedom comes from integration. You don't need to silence the trigger. You need to listen to it. That discomfort is intelligence. That reaction is a messenger. It points to where your love hasn't yet reached. This doesn't mean you tolerate poor treatment or justify others' behavior. It means you take responsibility for your emotional world. It means you begin to ask different questions, not, "Why are they like this?" but "Why does this hurt me so much?" That shift is where power lives. That is where transformation begins. Instead of being pulled into someone else's chaos, you observe it and realize, this isn't mine to carry. That clarity doesn't come from intellectual understanding. It comes from doing the inner work, from facing what you were taught to avoid. Spiritual wisdom teaches that every trigger is sacred. It's an invitation to heal, not to blame. Every person who frustrates you is showing you something about yourself, your expectations, your wounds, your values, your boundaries. They are mirrors, not enemies. Their presence reveals where you are still reactive, still raw, still seeking wholeness through outside validation. But the moment you stop expecting the world to protect your wounds and instead begin to tend to them yourself, you become untouchable, not cold or detached, but centered, aware, and grounded in truth. To never be bothered again is not about building emotional armor. It's about building emotional clarity. You become less reactive, not because you've numbed yourself, but because you've finally seen yourself. You understand what lives beneath your anger, what your sadness is trying to say, and what your silence is begging you to hear. And when you do that, when you meet your emotions with compassion instead of resistance, no one holds power over you. Do you recognize that the trigger isn't about them, but about your own healing? If this truth resonates with you, declare it in the comments. I choose to heal what's within me. 3. The shadow holds the key to emotional freedom. Your shadow isn't your enemy. It's the gatekeeper to your emotional freedom. Carl Jung taught that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to a deeper understanding of ourselves. The things that trigger you, whether it's someone's loud voice, their emotional intensity, or their bold vulnerability, are often reflections of the very parts of yourself you were taught to suppress. You weren't born detached, guarded, or composed. You were trained to be that way. Somewhere along the line, being sensitive became a weakness. Being needy was seen as shameful. Expressing too much joy, anger, or desire was labeled too much. So you buried it. But what's buried doesn't die. It waits. It becomes part of your shadow. And when someone shows up in your life, embodying the exact traits you've disowned, something inside you tightens. That tightening is the call. The anger isn't about them. It's about you, meeting the abandoned self. That's why integration, not avoidance, is the path to wholeness. You don't heal by deleting people who trigger you. You heal by asking, what in me is rising to be seen? A woman raised to be the strong one, always composed, may find herself irrationally annoyed by someone who cries openly. But her annoyance is actually her shadow saying, I once cried like that. I was shamed for it. I miss that part of me. Or a man who prides himself on being logical might judge someone deeply intuitive, but the judgment is a mirror showing him the part of his soul that once believed in feeling, but was taught to fear it. Carl Jung's spiritual wisdom isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming whole. And wholeness means reclaiming every part of you, even the messy, dramatic, impulsive, insecure fragments you've hidden. Triggers are sacred. They lead you to your unhealed places. Emotional freedom is not about being unbothered. It's about being deeply aware. When someone shakes your peace, they are not stealing your power. They are revealing where it was never stable to begin with. This is the invitation to stop reacting and start reflecting. Every emotional reaction is a doorway. The ones who trigger you are not villains. They are messengers. They mirror your inner work. They call you home to the self you lost while trying to be accepted. To be spiritually awake is not to float above pain, but to stand in it, breathe into it, and ask what it came to teach you. That's the shadow's gift. That's Carl Jung's timeless lesson. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe for more spiritual wisdom on turning emotional triggers into keys to your inner freedom. 4. Triggers are mirrors and teachers. The people who upset you the most are not random villains in your story. They are precise, intentional mirrors reflecting the unresolved parts of your inner world. That sting you feel when someone mocks you, ignores you, or challenges you. It isn't just about their behavior. It's a signal, a spotlight on the wound you've buried. Instead of asking, why are they like this? Which only traps you in blame. Ask, what is this revealing about me? That question is the beginning of real emotional freedom. Carl Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. That's not just a quote, it's a map. When someone disrespects you, and it infuriates you. Maybe it's because deep down, you've struggled with self-worth. When you feel rejected and your heart tightens, maybe it's echoing an old story where you weren't chosen. The emotion isn't the enemy. It's the invitation. It's not about controlling others. It's about integrating the parts of you that still hurt. If someone says something untrue about you and it rolls off your back, it's because there's no hook inside you for that comment to cling to. But if their words cut you deep, it means there's something inside you still uncertain, still afraid it might be true. That's where the mirror becomes a teacher. That's where spiritual awakening begins, not in the silence of meditation, but in the heat of everyday emotion. When you react without reflection, you give away your power. You become a puppet to someone else's words, moods, and projections. But when you pause, when you breathe, when you ask, "What is this showing me?" you take your power back. You move from emotional slavery to emotional mastery. That's the essence of spiritual wisdom. Not to avoid emotion, but to understand it, to decode it, to alchemize it. This isn't easy work. Blame is easy. Defense is easy. But healing requires awareness. It asks you to get honest about the stories you're still carrying, the roles you're still playing, and the identities you're still clinging to for safety. And it demands you rewrite them, not to please others, but to set yourself free. Your triggers are not flaws. They are sacred clues. They point you to the places in yourself still waiting to be loved, seen, and heard. Every irritation, every judgment, every emotional spiral is a message from your soul. Not to harden you, but to soften you into truth. Because when you stop asking others to change and start doing the inner work, the world outside you begins to shift. You become less reactive, more grounded. You stop being hijacked by external chaos. You stop needing everyone to like you or agree with you. That is true liberation, not being untouched by life, but being unshaken by it. That is the spiritual awakening your soul has been craving. And it begins not with them, but with you. If this message resonated with you, leave a like, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another moment of self-discovery. Type in the comments, "I am ready to learn from every trigger and grow through it." 5. Emotional mastery is about integration, not suppression. Emotional mastery isn't about being unaffected. It's about being fully aware, about feeling every wave of emotion without letting it dictate who you become. You don't reach peace by ignoring your feelings or pretending they don't exist. You arrive at peace by understanding them so deeply that they no longer control you. Integration doesn't mean staying calm at all costs. It means letting every emotion rise and fall inside you while remaining anchored in your own center. That's not a weakness. That's wisdom. And it's the kind of spiritual wisdom that transforms your entire relationship with the world. When someone says something sharp, it's not their words alone that hurt. It's the memory, the wound, the story it reactivates within you. Your chest tightens, your breath shortens, your thoughts spiral. And in that moment, you have a choice. You can lash out, shut down, or distract yourself. Or you can pause and ask, what is this emotion trying to show me about myself? Carl Jung taught that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. That's the invitation to stop running from your triggers and start listening to them. They're not curses, they're clues. Suppressing emotion is like holding a beach ball underwater. The more pressure you apply, the more forcefully it will erupt. But when you practice integration, you let the emotion surface, breathe, and pass. You don't identify with it. You observe it. You learn from it. You hold space for it without letting it take over. That's emotional sovereignty, not being immune to pain, but becoming so intimate with it that it can no longer blindside you. A woman once believed her strength came from being the calm one. She never cried in front of others, never got angry, always smiled. But inside, she carried years of unspoken grief and resentment. One day, after a simple conversation triggered her deeply, she didn't suppress it. She didn't perform calm. She sat with her rage shaking, crying, breathing through it, and listened to what it was saying. It wasn't asking her to destroy anything. It was asking her to finally be honest. That moment didn't make her less peaceful. It made her real. From then on, her calm came from truth, not performance. True integration is when you stop splitting your emotions into good or bad, right or wrong. You recognize them all as parts of you messengers, not enemies. And in doing so, you stop being reactive and start being reflective. You're no longer tossed around by other people's energy because you've learned to anchor into your own. Your inner state becomes yours again, not something anyone else can steal. That's how you rise, not above your emotions, but through them. Not by pretending, but by integrating. And when you live this way, spiritual wisdom stops being a concept. It becomes the way you move through life, steady, present, and deeply free. If this message speaks to your soul, repeat after me. I honor every emotion, and I choose integration over suppression. I am mastering my inner world with grace. 6. Self-worth comes from within, not others. You stop being reactive the moment you stop outsourcing your identity. As long as your sense of self-worth is built on the approval, validation, or recognition of others, you remain vulnerable to every shift in their mood, tone, or opinion. Carl Jung taught that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And that journey begins when you no longer hand your power to others. Their words, their judgments, their silence, none of it should determine your value. When your self-worth is externally dependent, every interaction becomes a test. A raised eyebrow feels like rejection. A missed compliment feels like failure. But once you start drawing your identity from within, the game changes. You no longer live to be seen. You live to be aligned. You speak not to impress, but to express. Their approval becomes a bonus, not a requirement. And in that shift, you gain something priceless: inner freedom. Mia, a talented designer, used to live for validation. Her boss's comments shaped her mood, her confidence, her sleep. Every piece of feedback echoed louder than her own voice. But after immersing herself in healing work and Carl Jung's spiritual wisdom, she realized something profound about her boss wasn't the problem. Her dependency on external validation was. She stopped needing to be affirmed to feel worthy. She started creating from a place of self-trust. And in doing so, she reclaimed her peace. That's the power of individuation. According to Jung, it's the process of separating your authentic self from the false identities you've worn to survive identities like the people pleaser, the overachiever, or the one who's always agreeable. These masks may win praise, but they cost you your soul. When you release them, You don't become less connected. You become more whole. You don't lose compassion. You gain boundaries. Emotional sovereignty doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care without collapsing. It means you hear someone's opinion without absorbing it into your self-definition. You can love people without needing their permission to feel whole. You can accept feedback without shrinking. And you can walk away from misunderstanding without needing to explain your worth. Carl Jung also reminded us that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. So when someone's words sting, ask yourself, what part of me still believes them? What story inside me do they confirm? Often, their voice is just an echo of a wound that hasn't been seen yet. And healing doesn't always mean fixing it, means integrating. You carry the pain, yes, but now, with wisdom. You see your triggers not as flaws, but as invitations. The moment you stop needing others to tell you who you are, their opinions lose weight. Your energy stops leaking. Your peace becomes steady. You become a mirror of strength, not because you force it, but because you remember it. When your identity is rooted within, you don't need to defend it. You embody it. And that is spiritual wisdom in motion. Comment below. My worth comes from within. If you're ready to stop seeking validation and start standing fully in your power. 7. True power is psychological sovereignty. Carl Jung called it individuation, the sacred path of becoming whole by owning every fragment of your inner world. You don't reach power by numbing your heart or silencing your soul. You arrive at true strength when the places that once bled have been tended to with such honesty and presence that they no longer cry out. You don't flinch when someone disapproves because you've already accepted the parts of you they're pointing at. You don't chase people who leave because you no longer abandon yourself. You don't over-explain because you've made peace with being misunderstood. This is not arrogance. This is what it feels like to be internally free. This freedom doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you're no longer ruled by everything. Anger, sadness, and pain still come and go, but they don't possess you. You don't react automatically. You don't spiral. Instead, you witness. You allow the emotion to rise and pass like a wave that no longer knocks you over, because the ocean within you is no longer chaotic. This is not cold detachment. It is warm awareness. It is spiritual wisdom in motion, the kind that says, I trust myself enough to feel everything without collapsing into anything. You become untouchable, not because you hide, but because you've healed. The judgment of others can no longer define you, because you've already looked your shadows in the eye and stayed. When someone criticizes, you pause not to internalize their words, but to ask, does this resonate with the truth I know in me? And if it doesn't, you release it. You don't carry every dart that's thrown your way. You've built inner walls made of clarity, not fear. You've stopped needing to convince anyone of your worth, because your being alone is the evidence. This kind of power cannot be faked. You can't pretend your way into sovereignty. No meditation trick, no affirmation repeated 1,000 times can replace the deep work of integration. Real peace is earned. It comes from sitting with discomfort until it no longer threatens you. It comes from witnessing your jealousy, your rage, your insecurity, not to judge or banish them, but to understand what they protect. And in that understanding, their grip loosens. That's when you realize It was never about silencing your emotions. It was about learning their language. You don't need to become harder to protect your heart. You need to become softer with yourself. Gentleness is not weakness when it's rooted in self-respect. Silence is not avoidance when it's chosen with discernment. Boundaries are not walls when they're drawn from love, not fear. Spiritual wisdom teaches us that we don't ascend by escaping life. We rise by descending into our own depths and learning how to hold ourselves through it. And so, the people who once triggered you become mirrors, not threats. Their judgments become reflections, not verdicts. Their leaving becomes redirection, not rejection. You no longer fear losing them because you've stopped losing yourself. This is what it means to live whole, not perfect, not unaffected, but rooted, clear, and profoundly free. If this message has stirred something deep within you, leave a comment of truth. I reclaim my power. I am whole, rooted, and free. Thank you for joining us on this journey of inner mastery and self-awareness. Remember, true strength isn't found in reacting to every challenge, but in remaining calm, centered, and untouched by the chaos around you. As Carl Jung taught, when we understand our own shadows and rise above the ego, we free ourselves from the need to be disturbed by others. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom, and make sure to turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos that support your path to peace, power, and spiritual growth. Until next time, stay grounded and stay wise. How to know how many lives you have lived. 9 signs of reincarnation. The soul never thinks without a picture. Aristotle. Have you ever met someone for the first time and felt like you've known them forever? Or picked up a new skill as if you'd mastered it long ago? These are more than coincidences. They could be echoes from a life you've lived before. In today's video on spiritual wisdom, we'll explore 9 powerful signs that may reveal how many lives your soul has experienced. But more importantly, this isn't just about curiosity. It's about using that knowledge to deepen your self-awareness and evolve in the present moment. As you watch, ask yourself, what memories might my soul be carrying? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's grow together on this sacred journey. 1. Intense and frequent déjà vu. Déjà vu is often misunderstood as nothing more than a mental hiccup, a momentary brain glitch. But for those on a spiritual path, its intensity suggests something far more profound. When these moments strike, when you feel like you've been in a place you've never visited, or lived a moment that technically hasn't happened, they can stir something deep within you. It's not just a flicker of recognition. It's a soul-level knowing. You don't just remember with your mind. You remember with your entire being. The sensation can feel like walking into a memory that isn't yours in this lifetime, yet feels unmistakably real. Your heart rate shifts, your breath pauses, and there's a subtle inner pull as if something ancient within you is waking up. These are not ordinary sensations. These are soul memories. You might be standing in a crowd and suddenly feel a wave of familiarity, not with the people, but with the feeling of being there, as if your soul has returned to a scene it once knew. Unlike dreams that fade or thoughts that pass, this kind of déjà vu often carries emotional weight. It can feel comforting or unsettling, beautiful or eerie. But what marks it most is its vividness. The stronger the emotion and detail you feel, the more likely you're tapping into a memory from a previous incarnation. And that's where the understanding of reincarnation becomes essential. These aren't accidents of the mind. They are evidence that your consciousness has lived beyond this single life, and that it is still connected to experiences far older than your current name or form. Some may experience this through people meeting someone for the first time, but instantly feeling like you've known them forever. There's no explanation for the comfort, the bond, the magnetism. Words aren't necessary because the energy speaks louder. It's not about love at first sight. It's about recognition at first soul glance. In other cases, it could be a language, a smell, or even a historical event that brings tears to your eyes, even if you've never read about it before. These unexplained emotional responses are not coincidences. They are remnants of past lives trying to break through the veil of forgetfulness. Reincarnation teaches us that time is not linear, and that the soul gathers wisdom and imprints across many lifetimes. So when déjà vu enters your awareness, it may be the soul's way of handing you a thread, one that connects you to the fabric of who you have always been. It's not fantasy, it's spiritual physics. Energy never dies. It only transforms. Your experiences are recorded in your soul's blueprint, and déjà vu is when one of those old blueprints temporarily overlays the present moment. If you listen closely, these flashes are not just strange moments to be dismissed. They are invitations, clues, reminders. In a world that tells you to define yourself by your current status, role, or achievements, déjà vu whispers something timeless. You are not just this body. You are not just this name. You have lived before, and your soul remembers. If you've ever felt a wave of intense déjà vu that tugs at your soul, not just your mind, you're not alone. Comment, I believe it's a soul memory if this resonates with you. Or, I think it's just the brain if you see it differently. Let's open the conversation. 2. Instant connections with people or places. Some connections defy logic. You meet someone for the very first time, and yet your heart skips the introductions it just knows. There's no awkwardness, no small talk, just a strange, sacred ease, as if your souls have been waiting to meet again. This kind of instant bond isn't about physical attraction or shared interests. It's something deeper, something older. These are soul reunions, echoes from another lifetime where your spirits already danced, fought, or loved. When you meet again in this life, time bends. The connection feels effortless and unexplainably powerful, like continuing a story that never really ended. This same phenomenon doesn't just happen with people, it happens with places too. You walk into a town, step onto a stone path, or sit beside a body of water, and a flood of peace washes over you. You feel strangely at home, like you've walked those streets or heard those winds before. That feeling isn't fantasy, it's your soul remembering. It's your energy recognizing a vibration it once merged with, long before this body, this name, or this lifetime. Elena, a 32-year-old woman from Chicago, had never been outside the United States. But when she visited an old temple in Kyoto, Japan, she was overwhelmed by emotion. She couldn't understand the language or history, but her body reacted and she cried without knowing why. That night, she dreamed in vivid detail of a life she never lived. Rituals, names, even grief. Her conscious mind didn't have the answers, but her soul did. These moments are not fiction. They are spiritual whispers of who we once were. You might find that, with certain people, you fall into rhythm, as if no time has passed. You speak the same thoughts. You sense each other's moods. You know what they'll say before they say it. These aren't coincidences. They are signs of shared timelines, past lives overlapping into the now. And when it happens, you don't need years to build trust. The safety, the depth that's already there, carved into your spiritual memory. Yet not all instant connections are pleasant. Some feel magnetic, but are full of conflict, confusion, or pain. These are soul contracts, relationships meant to resolve unfinished lessons from lifetimes before. You may be drawn to them, not because they are right, but because they are familiar. And that familiarity is meant to wake you up, challenge you, heal you, or free you. Your soul remembers more than your mind can comprehend. It recognizes energy. It knows the hands that once held it. It remembers the earth that once carried its weight. So when you feel something unexplainable, don't dismiss it. These are not random emotional spikes. They are spiritual signals, invitations to remember, to reconnect with the layers of yourself that transcend time. Everything you are drawn to in this life is a clue to the many paths you've walked before. Pay attention to what stirs your spirit. The people, the places, the feelings that pull you without reason, they are the footprints of your reincarnated journey, guiding you toward deeper truth, unfinished healing, and spiritual alignment. Have you ever felt instantly connected to someone or someplace? Comment below. My soul remembers if you've experienced these timeless reunions. 3. Natural wisdom or talents. Some children don't just play, they compose. Some don't just doodle, they create detailed portraits with no guidance. And some speak not like kids, but like philosophers trapped in tiny bodies. These abilities don't arise out of nowhere. They are not simply coincidences, nor are they always the result of exceptional parenting or early exposure. They are clues. Clues that the soul has walked this earth before. Clues that somewhere in the unseen fabric of time, your spirit once lived, learned, and mastered a craft, and now it's remembering. This phenomenon is often described as natural wisdom or innate talent, but in truth, it may be something much deeper, a memory echoing through lifetimes. When you find yourself unusually good at something you've never studied, it's worth asking, where did this come from? That ease, that fluency, that instinct, it might be the result of accumulated experience across many lives. Reincarnation doesn't always show itself in dramatic past life flashbacks. Sometimes it's far more subtle. It slips through in the way your hands move across piano keys like they've done it 1,000 times before, or the way you understand people without needing words. The soul, unlike the mind, doesn't forget. It stores impressions, lessons, gifts, even traumas. And sometimes, when the conditions are right, these soul memories surface as seemingly unexplainable abilities. That's why a young girl may feel instantly drawn to healing others, or a boy instinctively knows how to lead and protect. It's not about what they've learned here, but what they've carried over. Talent, in this case, becomes spiritual evidence, a quiet testimony of the journeys your soul has already taken. Even adults experience this. You meet a new skill, and yet it feels old. You start a craft and feel like you've returned home. That sense of, I've done this before, is not just a feeling, it may be real. Your soul, infinite in its nature, may be guiding you back to your purpose by revealing past life strengths in your present life. The universe does not waste experience. What you built, refined, and mastered in one life continues as spiritual residue in the next. To ignore these signs is to ignore the compass of your own evolution. When a gift flows through you effortlessly, it's often a reminder that your journey is bigger than one lifetime. You were not born empty. You were born ancient. And sometimes, your greatest wisdom isn't what you've learned, it's what you've remembered. Are you one of those souls born with ancient wisdom or talents beyond your years? If this resonates with you, comment below. I remember my gift to honor the wisdom your soul still carries. 4. Spontaneous memories or vivid dreams. Spontaneous memories or vivid dreams often arrive without warning, fleeting moments in sleep or deep stillness that feel more like remembering than imagining. You see yourself in a different body, in an unfamiliar place, living a life that isn't yours yet somehow. It feels deeply personal. These dreams aren't random mental projections. They carry emotional weight, rich textures, and the kind of clarity that normal dreams don't possess. Often, they unfold in places you've never physically visited, but you recognize every detail. You feel the weather, the texture of the walls, the emotional dynamics of people who don't exist in your current life. These are soul impressions, fragments of memory that transcend this incarnation. Sometimes these memories don't even wait for sleep. They emerge during waking hours through déjà vu or sudden emotional surges triggered by ordinary experiences. A scent, a sound, a place can ignite a memory you've never lived but feel deeply. Maybe you pass an old cathedral in a city you've never visited, and your eyes well up with emotion you can't explain. Or perhaps you feel an irrational fear of water, fire, or heights, rooted in an event that never happened in this lifetime. These aren't coincidences. They are energetic residues from previous lives, proof that the soul carries memory, even when the mind does not. Many people experience recurring dreams involving specific locations or individuals they've never known in this lifetime. These dreams often come with a heavy emotional charge, longing, grief, deep connection, or even a sense of responsibility. You may find yourself dreaming repeatedly of fleeing danger, speaking in a foreign tongue, or finding sanctuary in ancient temples. Each dream becomes a thread in a larger tapestry your soul is weaving, gently revealing chapters of its long journey through time. Children are often the clearest conduits for these past life memories. Before the conditioning of logic and social norms sets in, they speak freely about other parents, distant lands, and events far beyond their current age or knowledge. Some may describe their death in a previous life with astonishing detail, or identify places and people they've never seen. These spontaneous recollections are the soul's raw voice, honest, unfiltered, and powerful. As we grow older, those memories are pushed beneath layers of rationality, but they don't disappear. They simply wait for the right moment to re-emerge. During spiritual awakening, the veil begins to thin. You start noticing connections between your dreams, emotional patterns, and the larger questions about your existence. Your vibration rises, and with it, your sensitivity to subtle energies. This is when spontaneous memories intensify, becoming invitations to explore your spirituality and reconnect with your true essence. The soul starts revealing its ancient wounds and victories, asking for integration, healing, and remembrance. These glimpses are not just personal. They are spiritual clues that you have lived before, loved before, and possibly left something unfinished that now calls for your attention. In the language of energy, nothing is ever lost. Everything is stored, waiting to be retrieved. The law of attraction plays a quiet but powerful role in this. As you evolve, you begin to attract exactly what you need to remember. These memories don't return randomly. They surface when you're spiritually ready. That's when manifestation becomes deeper than visualizing material things. It becomes a process of summoning your soul's truth. The dream isn't just a dream, it's a signal. It's your soul reminding you of what it still carries, what it still seeks, and what it has always known. If you've ever felt a dream or memory that seemed more real than this life, it may be your soul remembering. If you believe this message is meant for you, repeat after me. These memories are sacred. I receive them with trust, knowing they are guiding me. 5. Fears or phobias without cause. Unexplained fears, whether it's the terror of deep water, the panic on high places, or the dread of confined spaces, often go far beyond logic. These phobias can feel like irrational overreactions, especially when nothing in your present life explains them. But the truth is, some fears may be echoes of a trauma your soul has carried from another lifetime. While your conscious mind doesn't recall the experience, your body still remembers. The trembling hands, the racing heart, the overwhelming urge to escape it all points to a deeper memory that lives beneath the surface of awareness. Take the example of a woman who's never experienced a drowning incident, yet avoids lakes and pools with intense fear. Or the man who's never been trapped, yet panics in elevators or small rooms. These reactions don't stem from the present. They often reflect unresolved energies imprinted on the soul from the past. According to spiritual wisdom, your soul holds onto certain imprints from one life to the next, especially those involving sudden trauma, fear, or loss. And these imprints can manifest as instinctive, seemingly irrational fears that you just can't shake. Your body's reactions are not failures. They are signals. When your nervous system goes into overdrive without cause, it may be because your soul remembers a danger it once faced. These aren't just feelings to suppress or medicate away. They are messages deeply encoded into your energetic being, asking to be heard, honored, and healed. And through healing, these fears can become doorways to deeper self-knowledge and soul integration. Many people who explore past life regression discover startling connections between their present phobias and their previous lifetimes. A fear of heights might trace back to a fall in a previous incarnation. A fear of being buried alive might be linked to a lifetime that ended in war or disaster. Even modern therapy is beginning to acknowledge the powerful effect of subconscious memory, and spiritual healing expands this awareness into the timeless journey of the soul. These fears are not random, nor are they punishments. They are invitations. They invite you to explore your past, not with fear, but with curiosity. To see your phobias not as obstacles, but as remnants of a story that's still unfolding. You're not broken. You're remembering. You're reconnecting with pieces of yourself, long hidden beneath the veil of time. By working through these deep emotional imprints, through practices like meditation, conscious breathing, journaling, or energy work, you begin to reclaim lost parts of your power. You don't have to know exactly what happened in the past to release it. What matters is your willingness to feel, to listen, and to shift the energy that still lingers. Every unexplained fear is a trail of breadcrumbs leading you home, not to your house or your name, but to your soul. And with each layer you peel back, you're reminded that your life is not the first page in your story. It's just the latest chapter. If you've ever felt a fear that makes no logical sense, you're not alone, and your soul might remember what your mind has forgotten. If this message resonates with you, don't hesitate to like, subscribe, and share your experience in the comments below. Let's heal and release it together. 6. Fascination with specific cultures or time periods. There are moments in life when you stumble upon a piece of history, a photograph, a melody, or even a scent, and suddenly you're overcome with a strange emotion that has no explanation. It's not just curiosity. It's as if something ancient within you has been awakened. You may find yourself inexplicably drawn to a specific culture or time period, as if it's a part of your story, even though you've never lived it in this life. This deep emotional attachment to an era, be it ancient Egypt, the Victorian age, or tribal Africa, feels almost sacred. It touches something so real and familiar inside you that logic falls short. That resonance isn't accidental. It's the echo of memory, one that doesn't belong to your body, but to your soul. Many people experience this recognition without understanding it. It might be sparked by watching a documentary, walking through an old temple, or hearing a traditional instrument you've never heard before. Suddenly, you're moved to tears. Something within you knows the sound, the place, the story. This is what we call soul recognition, a gentle but undeniable reminder that you may have lived during those times. Your emotional reaction is not imagined, it's remembered. Science may not yet have language for it, but many spiritual paths understand that your consciousness is layered. While your current identity may be limited to this lifetime, your soul carries impressions from previous incarnations. These impressions can surface as irrational longings, unexplained preferences, or powerful emotional responses. They rise like whispers from another time, guiding you back to who you've always been beneath the surface of your present self. The deeper truth is that your soul doesn't forget. Even if your mind has no recollection, your energetic field holds everything your loves, your losses, your roles, your rituals. That's why people sometimes discover they have a deep passion for ancient scripts, foreign languages, or specific symbols without ever studying them. There's a familiarity there that defies logic. It's not learning, it's remembering. You weren't imagining it when you felt chills walking into that ancient cathedral. You weren't overreacting when your heart broke while reading a tragedy from a distant empire. And you certainly weren't fantasizing when you knew the layout of a historical city you'd never visited. The soul speaks in emotion, in symbols, in subtle awakenings that can't be dismissed by reason alone. This connection to past cultures can also carry a sense of mission. It's as if your soul has returned to continue something that was unfinished. That's why some people feel a calling to preserve certain traditions, fight for forgotten truths, or honor the wisdom of ancient civilizations. They're not just students of history, they're participants in it. So when you feel that pull toward a time, a place, a people, don't ignore it. It may very well be your soul leading you to the fragments of your truth scattered across lifetimes. And through that recognition, you may find pieces of your purpose in this one. If you've ever felt drawn to a place or time you've never lived in, your soul may be remembering. If you believe and are ready to receive it, repeat after me. This connection is not random, my soul remembers. I trust the journey unfolding for me. 7. Feeling like an old soul. You always felt different, not in a way that made you feel superior, but in a way that made you feel ancient, as though you carried stories in your bones, echoes in your heart, and a kind of wisdom in your silence. While others around you chased the next trend, laughed over trivial things, or stayed consumed by surface-level drama, you watched. Not because you were cold, but because you simply didn't resonate with the noise. From a young age, you preferred solitude over popularity, reflection over distraction, and meaning over entertainment. You were not detached, you were deep. And that depth is not always born in this lifetime. Old souls don't just grow wise, they return wise. If you've always gravitated toward introspection, craved deep conversations that feel like soul excavations, and found comfort in the unseen and the unspoken, it's likely your soul remembers. You may have sat quietly in the company of many, feeling as if no one could quite see the real you, the version of you that transcends age, time, and identity. That's not alienation. That's reincarnation's whisper. It's your soul nudging you gently, reminding you that you've lived before, that your knowing wasn't taught, but remembered. This longing for meaning often shows up in your spiritual curiosity, not just as interest, but as recognition. When you hear truths about energy, consciousness, the law of attraction, or manifestation, you don't just believe, you resonate. These aren't ideas you're trying to accept. They're truths you feel like you already knew. Your soul isn't learning, it's waking up. You may find yourself drawn to the mysteries of life, why we're here, how energy shapes reality, or what exists beyond death. That pull isn't random. It's a result of lifetimes spent exploring, seeking, and evolving. You've likely felt older than your peers in more ways than one emotionally, spiritually, and even intellectually. While others sought applause, you sought alignment. While others performed for approval, you pursued a purpose. Your detachment from shallow conversations doesn't come from arrogance, but from the soul's exhaustion with repetition. You've lived through it all before the drama, the noise, the illusion. Now, you crave truth. And yet, in your depth, you've also known loneliness, because not everyone can walk with you into the places you're willing to go. Not everyone is ready to remember what your soul already knows. You've had to sit with silence and let it speak, let it teach. But even in isolation, you've always known. Your difference was never a curse. It was a sign, a spiritual signature, proof of many lives, many lessons, and many returns. To feel like an old soul is not a phase or personality trait. It's a spiritual inheritance, a sign that you've walked through lifetimes gathering wisdom, that you've been here before, and that you came back with a mission. The world may not always understand you, but deep inside, you know exactly who you are. And that knowing, that unshakable truth, is the loudest echo of your soul's eternal journey. If you've ever felt like an old soul navigating a world that doesn't quite match your depth, let us know you're still with us, and comment, "I feel the wisdom within," below. Your words help us connect more deeply with souls like yours. 8. Recurring life patterns or lessons. Some emotional patterns feel strangely familiar, like déjà vu for the soul. You may find yourself falling into the same relationship dynamics over and over again, trusting too soon, getting hurt, being abandoned, or sacrificing your own needs to please others. At first, it might seem like coincidence or poor judgment, but when the pattern repeats across years, different people, and even different environments, It's not random. It's reincarnation at work. These aren't just emotional habits. They're soul lessons your spirit has yet to master. They come back not to punish you, but to be healed. Until they are faced, integrated, and resolved, they will return again and again through new faces, new places, and new circumstances. Spiritual wisdom teaches that the soul is a traveler through time, carrying emotional imprints and karmic memories across lifetimes. So when you're stuck in cycles of abandonment, betrayal, self-doubt, or rejection, these aren't just wounds from this lifetime. They may be echoes of unhealed traumas from lifetimes before where you weren't able to speak up, fight back, or walk away. Now, your soul is asking, will you finally learn what you were once too afraid to confront? Will you love yourself enough this time to choose differently? Take, for example, someone who constantly ends up in situations where they're undervalued at work, in friendships, in love. No matter how much effort they give, they feel unseen. This may not just be bad luck. It could be a recurring soul lesson to stop seeking external validation and remember their divine worth. The lesson is never about changing the world outside you. It's about evolving the world within you. And when you shift internally, the external reality must follow. The universe is patient. It doesn't rush your awakening. If you don't learn the lesson in this life, it will be lovingly reintroduced in the next. That's the grace of reincarnation. But the moment you recognize the pattern, truly recognize it, it begins to lose power over you. That's when you start writing a new story, not from fear or habit, but from consciousness and choice. As Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. What you call misfortune may actually be divine repetition, an invitation to evolve. You're not being tested, you're being taught. And every time the lesson returns, it carries the same message. You are ready now. Choose differently. Respond with awareness. Heal the wound at its root. These repeating emotional loops are sacred. They are not obstacles. They are assignments. And when you pass them, you don't just liberate yourself. You free your bloodline, your future lifetimes, and the collective energy field of those around you. You become a living testimony that healing is real, reincarnation is active, and spiritual wisdom is the path home. To affirm your commitment to breaking old cycles and embracing true growth, declare your intention. Comment below, I choose to learn and heal, to honor your soul's journey and encourage others to face their patterns with awareness and strength. 9. A deep inner search for meaning. There's a kind of emptiness that success can't fill, a restless stirring inside you. Even when everything in your life looks complete. You may have the job, the relationship, the stability, yet something deeper keeps tugging at your spirit. It's not dissatisfaction with life, it's a hunger for meaning. That quiet longing for something greater is one of the most profound signs your soul has walked this earth before. You're not just living this life you're remembering. This inner yearning doesn't disappear, no matter how many goals you achieve or boxes you check. It follows you into quiet moments, whispers through sleepless nights, and reveals itself when you're surrounded by people, but still feel alone. You've probably tried to silence it by staying busy, by chasing the next achievement, but it always returns this subtle ache for something more timeless, more sacred. And that's because your soul has known deeper realms. It's carrying the echoes of lifetimes spent seeking, evolving, learning. You might have found yourself drawn to questions that others find too heavy, or too strange? What's the purpose of suffering? Why do I feel things so deeply? Why do I feel older than my age? That isn't coincidence. It's spiritual memory trying to rise through your conscious mind. It's your soul nudging you toward your origin. Carl Jung once said, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." That awakening begins with this hunger. It often leads you towards spiritual paths that seem unusual to others. Meditation, energy work, past life regression, or simply spending long hours in silence contemplating the meaning of it all. You might have tried to explain it before, but found words too limiting. That's because what you're experiencing goes beyond language. It's a remembering. A remembering of who you were, who you are, and who you're becoming. You're not just exploring spirituality, you're decoding your soul's blueprint from lifetimes ago. Even in childhood, this longing may have shown up. Maybe you looked at the stars and felt homesick for a place you couldn't name. Maybe you asked questions no one else around you could answer. Maybe you felt different, not better, just older, more tired, more sensitive, more aware. That sensitivity was not weakness. It was wisdom accumulated through many cycles of existence. And now, as you mature, the call grows louder, not for more things, but for more truth. This hunger eventually shifts your focus. The need to impress, to chase trends, to belong in places that drain you, it all begins to dissolve. You start letting go of superficial noise and gravitating toward peace, toward books that stir your soul, people who speak with depth, and environments that feel like sacred space. Your energy becomes more discerning, not out of judgment, but out of instinct. You're returning to yourself. What drives this longing is not confusion, it's clarity. It's your soul remembering what truly matters. You've lived before, and you came back, not to repeat, but to realign. The restlessness you feel is not a flaw, it's an invitation. Your soul is not lost, it's awakening. Remember, the journey of the soul is vast, mysterious, and often far older than we can imagine. The signs of reincarnation aren't just mystical ideas, they're spiritual breadcrumbs leading you back to your eternal truth. So if any of these 9 signs resonated with you, trust that your soul has walked many paths before this one, and each life has brought you closer to who you are meant to become. If you found value in today's message, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who's spiritually curious, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. Make sure you turn on the notification bell so you never miss a chance to dive deeper into the wisdom of the soul. Your awakening is only just beginning.